All right, 4.6, watersheds. One of my big passions in life is water. I'm an Aquarius, so that makes sense. Some of you may have known that. But rivers, lakes, streams, I've just really had a real fascination with. And here in 4.6, we're going to get to talk about those a little bit. What I have on the screen here is the LA River watershed. So this is all the area that's drained by the Los Angeles River. That's basically what a watershed is. It's you take a drainage basin, one major area or river, and all the little rivers that drain into it, and then you kind of look at all the land that gets drained. Every raindrop that falls in the area that is outlined here, will go eventually into the LA River and into the ocean right here at Long Beach. Think about that. This is, especially for Long Beach, this is a lot of area, and really the most important thing to remember when we talk about watershed quality, it's not so much the area, but the number of people living there and what's going on that land that really distinguishes the quality of the water in that watershed. As you imagine, there's just a lot of people living in this area, so there's a lot of potential for pollution. And kind of interestingly, if kind of outline Long Beach roughly here, probably most of Long Beach isn't even in the LA River watershed, just maybe like 30% of it. We're mostly in the San Gabriel watershed, but we take all the pollutants from the rest of LA through our watershed. So, enduring understanding, we have balance over time, systems interact. Again, we're looking at the water cycle here, evaporation, infiltration, precipitation, water cycle. We're also looking at all the plant life that's living in this area, and of course that leads to thinking of the animal life, and of course the microscopic life, flora and fauna, and just the balance that we achieve over time in our watershed, between the cycling of that water running off and then coming back. It's really driven by the water cycle here, in essence. And the learning objective here, the characteristics of the watershed, like I've mentioned before, number of people living in it is a huge consideration. So wherever you find lots of people, typically you find most likely you're going to have a big impact on the quality of water in that watershed. How much that water is being used, how much is it being returned. One thing that we have a lot here in our watershed, you look at the LA River, that's reclaimed water. What do I mean by that? That's treated wastewater. I want you to go, next time you look over at the LA River, go across there, maybe on purpose, just to check it out because you're interested. And that the water that's flowing through that center channel mostly is treated wastewater from the San Fernando Valley. Some of it is runoff from lawns, when it rains, so forth, when people irrigate their grass. And of course, as you know, that water doesn't always get on the grass. Now, that happens at my house too. It's hard. It's just hard to get them adjusted right. Also, the type of soil that's there, the plants that are there, how steep the land is, or how steep or flat the land is. These are all things that may are part of the characteristics. So let's get into it. Area. How big is it? Length of the watershed. We're going to see in a little bit. The LA River is 50 miles, and that's what we're looking up here. LA River, 50 miles, roughly. But if we can look at all sorts of rivers, bigger, smaller. The Nile River, one of the world's biggest rivers, it's an extremely long and narrow watershed. Very interesting. The Amazon River is like a big circle. So those sorts of the shape of it, the length, have affect its characteristics of slope. How steep is it? The water move fast or slow? Type of soil. How well does it infiltrate? Percolate down underground. Vegetation types. You got a forest? Do you have shrubs? Do you have grasses? All of those things will affect, or nothing at all, pretty much. Although, wherever you go, even the driest areas, you tend to find something living there, some kind of plant. There's very few places that are so dry that no plants will live. Plants are pretty amazing like that. They'll find a way to live even in the driest area. And we look at divides. Usually these divides are, a ridge or a mountain. The slope that you see. Moving back, like we look real right here, these are the San Gabriels. San Gabriels. Mountains here. Wow, that's awful. Oh, we do that for you. So these mountains, form that kind of wall where it comes in. Here, the Santa Monica Mountains. And then on the other side, we don't have mountains. We just have the slope of the land, right? The land kind of slopes that way and pushes the water over here. The land slopes this way. And right at this divide is kind of like a high point. Then it's like a little mini ridge, I guess. So water's going to move here. And now I guess that makes the other ones kind of confusing now. Oops. So, I wish, what was this? This might be like the 91 or the 105, 710 interchange. Possibly. Yeah, I think I like the 105. But let's get into it. This right here, I highly recommend this area. This is one of my favorite hikes in LA. It's pretty easy to get to, just above Pasadena roughly, called Chantry Flats. And you go there, you see this awesome waterfall. And this is water coming from springs, primarily, and in the mountain, in the San Gabriel Mountains behind it. And high up here in the watershed, there's not a whole lot of pollutants there. Other than, the air pollutants that get trapped and fall out of the sky. You don't have people, houses, trash up ahead of it. Let me figure out the name of that. Yeah, that's the Sturtevant Falls. Took a group hiking up here one time, maybe 5 years ago. Awesome day. Awesome hike. Easy 1.5 mile hike from the campground. I think it's closed right now, but this is just make a note of this. High up along watershed. Few people along the stream. Fairly clean, right? Fairly clean water. Again, there are going to be some pollutants from, man-made pollutants from fallout from car exhaust, up all different types. So here are different land categories. Let's kind of go through these in terms of how they affect water quality. Now, high density residential, this means you have a lot of people, lots of people living close together, and they're housing basically. So when you have lots of people, you're automatically going to see, trash. People are walking their dogs around. You're going to have dog feces. Both of those can be easily washed into the stream. For us, it'd be the LA River, and other things. People have to get to their house. That's on streets. The streets accumulate, different oils and other pollutants from car brake dust. Write that down. Oil, brake dust. And some of you, I like wash cars. I like washing cars. And one thing I do, I spray. Dang, gotta stop talking right. I'll take my hose and spray it in the wheel to get the rotor, and to see all this black goo come off of there. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I want to get that out of there. Nothing. Oh no. Now that stuff is going to wash into the LA River and then the ocean. So this would be, a moderate, pretty high effect, fairly high impact. On water quality in the negative sense. Oh, there's going to be a lot of hardscape, right? But there's going to be some lawns, right? Or dirt, basically. So even if people don't have lawns, they might have drought resistant landscaping where it's not super it's when water hits, it's going to soak in. So it's kind of moderate in that sense. Now, if we're looking at low density, that would have a lower impact on water quality, basically because you have fewer people. But you're still going to have the issue with some trash, some hardscape preventing the infiltration of water. But when you look at a map, and we'll see in a bit of LA, the low density residential, they're looking at places like Beverly Hills, Brentwood, San Marino, places where there's a lot of land compared to where the housing is, a lot of open areas. So you're probably going to have more infiltration there, and less runoff in general. And that's good to help keep the water on the dirt, soaking in. And since there's fewer people, there's going to be less trash, less dog feces, less oil and dust. It's going to be there. It's going to be a little bit better. One thing I forgot to mention there, people put their lawns and everything. There's herbicides and pesticides. To kill things they don't want in their lawn. People, you can buy all these chemicals. You've probably seen them Home Depot, spray them all over there. And pesticides, to kill off bugs. Like termites for one thing. They might eat they might eat our houses, which we don't want. So it's a balance. Low density residential is also going to have this issue with herbicides, maybe even more, because here as well. Let's say this right here too. If you've seen those lawns in Beverly Hills and other fancy places, man, I think they use a lot of chemicals to get it right. Now, commercial, these would be like storefronts. Or any kind of business. Like go down Atlantic, and you see everything that's there. That's commercial development. All right, and you're going to have the same issue. You're going to have other places, but even more. Wait a second, something's got screwed up there. you go. You might have more impact because there's more people, right? There's more people due to more people. One thing businesses want to be, they want to bring a lot of people in, right? So that means cars, and all, more people. Remember, there's just more trash, so more people. So you're going to have those same issues, with trash, oil and brake dust from cars, and probably herbicides and pesticides too. People want their business to look nice and spiffy, right? All right, we will finish video 1 right there.